right, now we're on to the school and crime prevention. So, school is really important for us understanding delinquency and intervention, obviously, because they have been seen as a prime actor in the development of prevention and delinquent behavior. A person's personality is somewhat formed by the time they're 4 years old. So you can imagine that that's where they learn and see a lot of skills, and then those skills are further developed throughout school. If you look at a lot of times at criminals, when I've even interviewed them, most of them started their life in crime very young and either were caught and got into the system positively or negatively, or they weren't caught but yet they did start or had a tendency towards it during the time that they were in school. There are associations, direct and indirect, that can be understood within the context of the educational mission and the formation of society. Okay, theoretical views. Obviously, schools are important in developing behavior. There's blocked attainment and feelings of failure as a source of deviant behavior. Look at the history of bullying. We didn't used to call it bullying, but it used to happen on a lot of more violent levels than it is occurring wholly now. Not that it doesn't still occur, but we're doing a better job of identifying it, recognizing it, and stopping it. But again, it still occurs, and that is a huge part of someone's developmental process of what happens to them, and all the things that also happen at home and how they're handled. It's just a whole variety of things, obviously. So we can look at a causal process relating to schools and delinquency, and they can take a variety of forms, whether it's poor school attendance or lack of concern for behavior that's not within the society expected norms, or whether it's an assumption that youth value a scholastic achievement. There is strong support of the school failure/delinquency relationship. All right, let's look at IQ and delinquency. So IQ is an important correlate of delinquency. It's not a direct causal factor. Low IQ does lead, or could lead to a number of other events that facilitate the acquisition of delinquent behavior. IQ also affects other school variables. And then if we look at school practices, they can operate against success and against school attachment, such as tracking or poor instruction. I mean, look at yourself. If you have a poor teacher, what does that do to your level of acceptance of the education you're receiving? So you can really see how poor, just that in itself, poor irrelevant instruction can lead to a beginning of issues. Also, victimization of school, like I talked about bullying, that is just the start. It leads to further alienation or exclusion from the mainstream of the student body. Look at how many crimes were committed against students, under 1 million. That's 32 offenses for every 1,000 students. That is too many. 290,000 teachers reported being threatened by a student. And then another 154,000, even though that's only 4%, that is way too many that teachers are the victim of physical attacks by students. So we obviously know that there is an issue with delinquency and educational factors. All right, and here's these numbers. Again, this is back from 2010, but there's some more current numbers in your textbook. We've already talked about bullying. There's 4 types: verbal, physical, social, and now cyberbullying. It's a whole nother avenue, and it's actually pretty scary because it can occur while somebody is relatively protected, unless, it is investigated fully. But people feel very safe over a dark shadow of an electronic device. So it's really doubled as far as what occurs with bullying because of cyberbullying. This just talks about bullying at school. You can look at the different percentages, and again, just scary numbers to me. Responses to school victimization, and where the fear occurred, how many stayed away, how many avoided activities because of it. So again, it's affecting, when somebody's bullied or being victimized, it's affecting their participation in school activities, which again affects them as a whole. Responses to victimization, obviously, since Columbine, and even before that, we have students with weapons or joining gangs or other types of misbehavior. There are some programs out there. Project PATH is one. It's positive action through holistic education. It brings everybody together basically to make decisions on what's going on. It looks at a number of different ways to do that, and it's actually been pretty positive, the results. All right, Lab and Clark looked at altering the school environment through cooperative decision making. They found lower victimization and problem behaviors through doing this. There was a Charlotte school safety program, and again, reductions in student fear. So again, it shows that every place is going to need something different depending on what's going on at that location. However, it does need to be addressed. Conflict management resolution, this is huge. Peer mediation. I remember when I was in elementary school, we had peer mediation. We would sit together with other peers and work through issues, and we've just developed that, which is great. They heavily rely on not only peer mediation, but parental involvement to oversee what's going on, and students learn lessons, and there have been a lot of positive results. There's also Responding in Peaceful and Positive Ways program. Again, they find that students in these programs have fewer problems, fewer suspensions, less fightings. So there's not been a lot of rigorous evaluations, but from what we've seen so far of the literature, they are having an impact. Peer pressure, gangs. So as I taught with DARE, I taught GREAT as well. There's 13 lessons, so I think it's a good start. But again, coming from me, unless it's something that is consistent and done yearly, annually, not just one time, 13 times throughout a student's whole career, I think there is going to be issues with not totally understanding peer pressure. It needs to be something that's continually done. So I think it's a good start. It just needs more. All right, here is the great middle school curriculum. So pause here, look through it. I know it well, I used to teach it, but look through it. So you can see what the students are taught throughout those 13 lessons. All right, the initial review saw that there's less victimization. The program revision evaluation show that, just like I thought, participants are more positive about police, which is really good. However, what's not good is there's no impact on delinquent activity because of the reasons, in my opinion, that I've listed. There's been now a lot of anti-bullying efforts. For example, the OLEAS program aimed at the entire school, but it did rely on the active student, teacher, and parent. It did raise problems about bullying, and it did establish as far as positive behavior and responses and training everyone within the program, as far as having discussions and how to work those with what the bullying issues that are going on at the specific place. They also worked with families outside of school, which I think is great. And they did find significant reductions in bullying, classroom disruption, and general delinquency, which is really cool. Going back, alternative schools. There's a lot of them. I grew up around them, and they're still out there. There haven't been a lot of evaluations on these schools, and results show reduced delinquency, improved school safety. The meta-analysis shows that there is some evidence that they increase school performance, improve school attitude, but no significant improvement in client delinquency, which isn't good. Police in schools. So police officers in Las Vegas, for example, our school district has their own police department. It's called Clark County School District Police. They are actually sworn commissioned officers that carry guns and do have arresting powers. But not all school programs have that, just depending on the size. There's also SROs, school resource officers, and those are also, some of them are armed, some aren't, and with the shootings that are going on with schools, there's a lot of changes going on with the SROs in the programs. All right, activities of law enforcement in schools. So they do a lot when you think about it. I'll let you pause here, but here are just some of the major activities of law enforcement officers in schools. All right, obviously, police in schools not without controversy because it can criminalize school discipline, which isn't good. It can introduce zero tolerance policy. When you have a school learning environment where students are expected to make mistakes and recover and learn, so there's some issues that have to be continually addressed and worked through. All right, here's some other programs and other prevention programs that are going on. And here's some future of school education programs, such as school hold key positions in growth and development of youth. We haven't done a great job in schools of adequately responding to juvenile misbehavior. And there are some other things here listed as well. All right, that ends this slide presentation. We'll see you for the next one.